First of all, nice to see everyone, and Happy New Year to you and your families. As the country saw this morning, the Prime Minister has said that he was going to step down as Prime Minister. But that doesn't mean he's no longer Prime Minister for the next month or 2 months. We need the Prime Minister to focus 100% on the U.S. tariffs. We have 14 days left before elect President Trump gets inaugurated, and we need to focus to make sure these tariffs don't move forward, and if they do move forward, we need to make sure that the federal government has a strong plan. The Prime Minister said he'd sit down with all the premiers, face-to-face meeting. I still want to hold him to that promise. He still will be Prime Minister for a month, maybe 2 months, but that has to be his #1 focus. We have a great group of premiers. As chair of the Council of Federation, reaching out to the premiers to get together as early as this week to have a conversation and make sure that we are ready to support the federal government in this time of uncertainty at the federal level. But I can assure you, we have a strong group of premiers. We're going to continue moving this country forward, continue moving Ontario forward, and making sure that we have a seat at the table when the discussions of the tariffs are placed against Canada. And hopefully that won't happen, but we need all hands on deck. We need the Prime Minister to continue doing his job. Prorogation doesn't mean vacation. It means continuing moving forward as the Prime Minister as long as he holds that title. I'll take questions.
Premier, does this change your timing? I mean, you've called for certainty and stability with all of what's going on in the United States. Does this change your thinking about having an earlier Ontario election? You were thinking about this spring, 2025. Is that now off the table because of what's happened in Ottawa?
Well, Rob, what I can tell you today is I'm 100% focused on the tariffs. I've been reaching out to governors and really Congress people and senators, business leaders in the U.S. I'm hearing a lot about our positive ads, and I can tell you the problem is not Canada, as a lot of you know, a lot of Americans, so do I. I've never once heard any American, no matter if it's Republican or Democrat, ever say Canada's the problem. Canada's not the problem. The problem is China shipping in cheap goods into Mexico, Mexico slapping a made in Mexico sticker on and shipping those goods up through the U.S. and Canada, costing Canadian and American jobs. That's unacceptable. And as I've always said, if we have to go it alone with the U.S., so be it. And if we have to do another deal with Mexico, so be it. But we have to make sure that we protect the jobs of Canadians. There's never been a time in history that is so important to make sure that we protect Canadian jobs, no matter if it's our critical minerals that we have to offer to the U.S., our electricity, oil from Alberta. We have a lot to offer our American friends and closest allies.
But does that mean you don't want to have an early election?
Well, Rob, I can tell you right now what I'm focused on right this second, and for moving forward, is making sure that we don't have tariffs. And God forbid President-elect Trump gets in there and puts tariffs, we have to retaliate. We have to retaliate hard against our friends south of the border, which is unfortunate. And I always say we have to build a fortress Can-Am, Canadian and Americans sticking together in these tough times around the world, and they are tough times around the world right now. But there's no better ally and friend we want to partner up with than the Americans.
But Premier, will you at least rule out an early election before the federal election? Will you rule that out, an election in Ontario before the federal Liberals go to polls?
Well, I can tell you, my main focus is these tariffs right now. I'm reaching out on a daily basis to officials down in the U.S. To make sure that we state our case, that we're a strong ally, strong friend, and we have a lot to offer the Americans. And all this would do, these tariffs, it would hurt American jobs and it would hurt Canadian jobs. There's over 9 million Americans wake up every morning to create products that get shipped up to Ontario. As you've heard numerous times, car parts can go back and forth up to 8 times before they get assembled in Ontario or Michigan or other state auto manufacturers. So that's what I'm focused on.
But given the immensity of that challenge, why won't you rule out an election and focus on that challenge instead of leaving the speculation of an early vote in the air?
Well, I can tell you I'll be working around the clock, which I haven't stopped I haven't stopped in 6.5 years, but we're going to continue working hard, building that relationship with the Congress people that sit on certain committees and along with the senators and governors. That's the goal at hand right now. We're going to continue focusing on that.
Premier, do you think that voters in Ontario would punish your party if you called an election right now and appeared to take your eye off the ball in the face of a trade war?
Well, I can tell you, my eye hasn't been taken off the ball for a second here. We've been leading the way, all the premiers. I have a great group of premiers, and I'm blessed to be the chair of the Federation right now. And we're going to lead. All the premiers are going to lead because every premier can bring something to the table. And that's the way we're going to move forward. But we do want an in-person meeting with the Prime Minister, as long as he's Prime Minister. His main focus is not on the Liberal Party, is not on anything else. It should be the next 14 days making sure that we avoid these tariffs. And if we can't avoid these tariffs, how are the federal government going to retaliate? We have a list of how the province of Ontario can retaliate, and we're ready. We're ready to make a move.
Premier, just before the Christmas break, you had
Yes.
indicated that you had a couple of leads that perhaps a meeting with
Yes.
U.S. President Donald Trump was in the offing.
That's right.
Did that materialize? And if not, what happened?
Well, it hasn't yet, but I'll tell you, President Trump is well aware of Ontario and myself. He knows how important this relationship is. He has many CEOs of large corporations in the U.S. He has many Congress people and senators and governors telling him he needs to sit down and have a conversation, because I have to inform him, and that's the reason behind the ads, to inform Americans how important of an ally and friend Ontario is, how important it is, critical minerals for the military. And speaking of military, we still expect the Prime Minister to meet the 2% NATO commitment and making sure that they secure the border. They came out with a plan. The plan is good, but now we need to see action on the plan to secure our border. And that's on both sides of the border, by the way. It's not just the Canadian border, it's the American border. We do have concerns if he deports, as he says, thousands of people. They don't start heading up to the Canadian border. We have a plan here in Ontario to work with CBSA, work with the RCMP and OPP and municipalities that run along the border. Folks, we have the longest border in the country. It's 2,727 kilometers long that are connected to the U.S., and there's many crossings that we have to make sure that the federal government secures, but we'll be there to support the federal government.
Trump once again talked about the idea of now a merger between Canada and the United States. You would dismiss that as a joke. At what point do you say that that's no longer a laughing matter and something that should be taken with quite a bit of seriousness?
Well, I know under my watch for Ontario, it'd never be for that at all. We have the greatest country in the world. We have the greatest province anywhere. Any sub-sovereign nation is Ontario, and the rest of the provinces as well.
Do you think he's joking?
We would, you know something, to the president, I'll make him a counteroffer. How about if we buy Alaska, and we'll throw in Minnesota and Minneapolis at the same time? So, you know, it's not realistic. I know he likes making these comments, and he likes joking around. I take that seriously. He may be joking, but under my watch, that will never, ever happen.
Premier, how do you think today's news is going to affect the fight against tariffs? Do you think it's going to make Canada's position harder to get across with a leader who's got one foot out the door?
I think, to be very frank, I think you're bang on. When there's uncertainty around the world, and the whole world has heard the news, you know, we need to make sure that the premiers step up, to make sure that the people of Canada and Ontario from coast to coast to coast understand that we have their backs. The system's still going to continue to move. We're still going to attract investments here in Ontario and across the country. The oil in Alberta is still going to move. The electricity is still going to move south of the border, and our critical minerals will as well, along with all our goods that we manufacture here in Ontario. We're the third largest trading partner in the world, Ontario is, to the U.S. And Canada obviously is number one in the world, but we have to continue making sure the flow of goods go across the border back and forth without any tariffs.
But Premier, are you concerned that the next 2 months, as you mentioned, Justin Trudeau will seemingly be Prime Minister
Yes.
for the next 2 months? Are you worried that it'll be wasted time with a seemingly lame duck Prime Minister?
Well, another good point. You know, that's the way our system is built. It's a democracy. He'll be on for, again, no one knows exactly how long, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. But this is when all Canadians step up. This is when our provincial and territorial leaders step up and our municipal leaders step up to make sure that we send a message to the whole world that we're open for business. We're going to continue to be open for business and attract new investments because, again, we have the greatest country in the entire world. There's no other place that can compare to Canada, no other place that can compare to Ontario.
Last question.
Could you speak about your own relationship with Justin Trudeau? Over the last 6 years while you were Premier, you guys have gone from something as adversaries to having a large number of economic investments here thanks to the federal government under Trudeau. What has your relationship been like over the course of your time as Premier?
Well, thanks for that, Colin. You know something, I always believe, I don't care about political stripes. I've said it 1,000 times. No matter who's in the office, the Prime Minister, or who's the local mayor of the city, I don't care if they're from the Orange Party, the Green Party, the Red Party, the Blue Party. I'm going to do what's in the best interest of Ontario. Yes, we've had some really, really good deals for the people of Ontario. We worked together in the pandemic, as we all did, right across this country. So I always look at positive things that we've done, and we'll continue to do positive projects with a new government as they come in, or the new Prime Minister, whoever that might be.
Do you prefer Chrystia Freeland, who's a good friend of yours, or Dominic LeBlanc, who's another good friend of yours?
Yeah, they're both really good people. I'm going to leave that up to the Liberal Party. I'm going to be focused and zoned in on the tariffs from the U.S. I'm going to continue trying to get a meeting with President-elect Trump to inform him. There's nothing better than sitting across from someone, looking at him in the eyes and telling him, number one, what a great trading partner Ontario is, what a great trading partner Canada is. And it's just going to hurt jobs on both sides of the economy. And we could rattle off all the great areas and different sectors that we work hand in hand with. Again, we are so much stronger together than we are apart. And that's my message to the President and all elected officials down in the U.S. But we'll keep you abreast of what's going on. We will not take our eye off the ball, any of the premiers, and we'll move forward during these turbulent times federally. But I can tell you, the province of Ontario is strong right now. We're going to continue moving forward. We're going to continue having people travel around the world, like Vic Fideli is traveling around, attracting billions of dollars of investment to come here. He told me the other day on the table, the deals aren't signed, but we're expecting $40 billion of investment to come to Ontario. That adds up to thousands and thousands of jobs. So everyone's doing their job, and they're going to continue to work hard. I can tell you with our team, we're relentless workers. When I say relentless, relentless. I was calling all of them throughout the holidays, and I'll never, ever stop working. But thank you, everyone, and may God bless the people of Ontario. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.